You're listening to Mark of the Maker. Hey everybody, I'm Mark Steiner and you're listening to Mark of the Maker. This is episode 147 of the show. We got an interview this time, something we're going to enjoy. Hopefully you will as well. Let's make sure we get the whole gang here. We got everybody tonight. We got Mr. Tom Crine.
Hey guys.
Listen to it. Did you hear the deep voice? Hey guys. We have Mr. Michael Birch.
What's going on, everybody?
Not nearly as good, gotta say. And we have
work on that a little.
And we have Mr. Sean Kendrick.
Hey.
Oh, that's straight Fat Albert right there. I heard it.
I tried to sound like the motherfucker from the Oak Ridge Boys, and it just didn't happen.
It was a good try.
Fat Albert away.
That's right. It was a good try. Okay, we got the whole gang here. We have some sponsors that we need to thank. We get that taken care of up front. So, Michael, you want to start us off?
I would like to very much. I'd like to thank Patreon. All you guys that put a little money in there helps us ship stuff back and forth. You know, we had to ship a microphone to our guest that we have today, hint, hint. But it really helps doing all that stuff, kind of the crap that we really don't want to pay for since we do this for, on or off time. And you can find us at patreon.com and just look for Mark of the Maker. And we do little giveaways sometimes. In fact, we have like a Tom Crine Renegade, which is named after the movie or the TV show. I've got it right now. We've been kind of passing around. I've been cutting, just everything. My floor up, bricks, going through the whole cold steel testing.
Heavy batoning.
Heavy batoning, of course.
Have you been doing the Fruit Ninja?
No, but with bricks.
Oh, okay. With construction materials mostly.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely more fun if you do brick.
Yeah, but don't worry. We'll send it back for a full spa, before we give it away to the paid tier.
Yeah.
But we really do appreciate you guys. It's a big help.
We do. So we've been doing quarterly Giant Mouse giveaways. We do one in our Facebook group, then we do one specifically for our Patreon supporters. So they get a knife every quarter, gets handed out to one of them, and this Renegade, which is fantastic. So we're on stage 2 of the pass around. I had it and sent it down to Michael. Michael's got it now. We'll get it over to Sean, and then Tom can weld up the blade and regrind her, and we'll send her out to a listener.
Hell yeah.
All right. Sean, you got one you want to read?
Yeah, I'm going to give a shout out to our buddies at Giant Mouse. Head over to giantmouse.com and check out their kitchen cutlery selection. Man, their product line is complete. If they ain't got it, you don't need it in the kitchen. And what I'm looking at right now, the ones that really intrigue me are the knives with the red G10 handles. Because, man, it's a really, really nice dark red G10. And G10 makes a ton of sense in the kitchen because it's non-absorbent. It's really, really extra stable, even more so than micarta. And I am guessing they've probably gave it a little bit of a treatment to bring out that natural grip that G10 has. So head over there and check out their kitchen line, and you will not regret it. And coming into this, I was going to talk to you guys about they released a blacked out Riv in titanium, but that guy already sold out. So head over and check out their stuff because a lot of it sells out. You need to be on the ball with these guys. And that's giantmouse.com, and you can tell them Sean sent you.
Sean, those little paring knives in the red look awesome for like $145.
No, dude, you'd lose money if you don't buy that motherfucker.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, number one, I've been hands-on with their cutlery line, and it's what a kitchen knife should be, and I do a lot of cooking. They're nice, thin stock. They're ground thin. The ergos are exactly where they need to be. These motherfuckers were made to put in work and work a lot and not wear you out, not build up hot spots or any bullshit like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
They're very nicely made, and like Sean said, they work great. Jim Worth loaned me a set from the prototype that they had, and they were fantastic. So yeah, I got to agree. The pairing is super, super handy. The Santoku is excellent.
Yeah, yeah. And the lines are just really nice on all of them. Not only are they functionally thought out, they're aesthetically pleasing.
They look fantastic on one of those magnetic blocks where they're like on the outside.
Oh yeah.
Where you kind of display them.
Fancy.
Yeah, dude, it's cool because the kitchen line, I mean, really, they could have phoned it in, and this could have been an afterthought and still been an okay project. But that ain't what these guys are about, and this is just a super well thought out kitchen line.
Yep, and they have it's nice that I didn't realize they actually offered it as a full set too, which is real cool.
Yeah, yeah.
And it looks like you get a little bit of a break if you buy the set, so that's awesome.
I was gonna say, it looks like it's going to save you a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Enough to maybe buy a standing rib roast or something like that.
Ooh. Now you're talking. We had one of those over the holiday. Oof, so good.
Mm-hmm. No, that's what got me thinking about it. Kroger had them at a fantastic price during the holiday.
Yeah. All right. Tomas.
Now I'm hungry.
Tomas, the South American knife maker.
Right.
What have you, my friend?
So I'm going to give a shout out to our friends at Arizona Custom Knives. When I just pulled it up, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I started clicking on stuff, and I've got like 7 open tabs now. And I'm just like, if you can't find something you like at Arizona Custom Knives, it doesn't exist. I mean, that's just how it is. They've got so many knives to pick from. First thing I saw was they've got a couple Shiva Kais, which I've always wanted, but I can remember looking at the old knife magazines in like the 90s and stuff. But anyways, the one that really caught my eye is, let me send this to you guys. You guys are going to love this. So this is a knife maker that I haven't seen in a while, and he used to be at Blade quite a bit. Arkansas Master Smith John Fitch, and they've got a big John Fitch Master Smith stamped Bowie with a pack of wood handles for like $800, man. $800 for a Master Smith Bowie with pack of wood.
With pack of wood,
right? I mean,
it's no slouch, people.
No, it's a cool piece for $800. But yeah, I saw that and I was just like, it brought back memories of Blade Show back in the day. You know, have you seen John in a while, Michael? He used to be at Blade every year.
No, I don't know what happened to a lot of those guys.
Seems like his dad was there too. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, the train's going by. But yeah, Arkansas Master Smith, and I don't know what happened to him, but he's still current. I checked, so cool piece.
Good.
Yeah, another one that's kind of cool. I don't know if you guys remember these, but I'm going to send it to you right now. It's a collaboration. Ryan and Wiedemann.
Yeah.
And it was the Doughboys with the catacomb spike in it. Those were really cool. But yeah,
Super cool.
get on there. Look, when you get on there, they have recently added. Just start going through it, and then if you've got a maker that you really like, search by maker. If you are looking for stuff from a maker, you can actually subscribe, and then they'll send you email notifications. So yeah. Check them out. Good guys. Highly recommend. Arizona Custom Knives. And we have a discount code, and I'll let Mark tell you about that.
Mark of the Maker ! All is one word, all lowercase. And that gets you free shipping.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome. These guys never fail to disappoint. Opening page on recently added Joe Caius.
Yeah.
Pocket Locket, Jim Schmidt Goblin Lockback,
I saw that one.
Cast Knives, Mosaic Damascus Keyhole, Anders Hogstrom, killer looking, Recurve,
Here's one from one of our friends, David Lish.
David Lish. Yeah.
I love this one because it's like feather pattern, but it's like hammer marks on the flat still. So it's really cool.
That's fantastic.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy's going to get out there and nab that small Sasquatch they got on the front page too.
Dude, they got a lot of really good stuff on there.
They do.
I got my eyes on another one that I'm not going to mention to anyone. It's not on.
Uh-oh.
So yeah, I'm hoping it doesn't sell until I make a little money.
I think they call that gatekeeping, Tom.
Yeah.
Call it whatever you want. I'm kidding.
Call it whatever you want as long as you keep your damn hands off, he said.
Now I got to find it.
Yeah, right.
Good luck.
It's like some Where's Waldo kind of thing. What would Tom buy so we can buy it first? Okay.
Yeah. Lesson learned. I don't tell you guys.
Right. You know, we recently featured in our holiday picks a knife that that had wolf or wolves, I should say, on the handle. But there is a Sergio Consoli alligator liner lock flipper that is actually cool with an animal on the handle on Arizona Custom Knives that people should go check out.
Same.
Not exactly
Not quite.
the same, maybe. That Anders Hogstrom is killer.
Just
I love
kidding.
that. Okay, enough of that. Let's introduce our mystery guest. He's been waiting patiently in the background, breathing heavily into his microphone. No, he's not actually breathing heavily into his microphone, but it's a old friend of ours. We've had a couple old friends on lately. This one is a guy that I met through the USN. I think maybe most of you other guys did too. His name is Tyler Holden. Tyler, this is a collector interview. We haven't done a real live collector interview in quite a while. So Tyler is our latest guy. So Ty, thanks for joining us, man.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Glad you're here.
Me too, so far.
Should we say what your USN name was, or are you still in witness protection?
You can say. I eventually changed it to my name because I had nothing
right.
to hide. But yeah, it was a rocky early start and nearly did some Fed time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Calabama, right, was your USN name originally?
That's it. Super original. Did undergrad at Alabama, grad school in California. So I just mashed the two together and thought I was a genius.
There you go. Very crafty. So Tyler has a deep collection of stuff and in a few different directions and many interests. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of different stuff. Yeah, it'll be cool. So Ty, why don't you explain to the kids at home where you're from, where you grew up, that kind of stuff, a little bit of background.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the tagline for this is the esoteric, arcane, and irrelevant. One of my coworkers once told me that you are a veritable fountain of useless information, and he meant to insult me, but I've taken it as a point of pride ever since. If you're ever on Who Wants to Be a Billionaire, just give me a call.
Arcane and irrelevant is what we are all about, my man.
I mean, that's why
you may
we're
have found
all
your
here.
home. That's right.
Right. But yeah, I was born in Florence, Alabama, and went all around the world several times, mostly for work. And now I'm back there, about a quarter mile down the road from where I was actually raised. So I tell people I haven't made it very far in life, and it's very much true.
Yeah.
Cool.
If you need to situate your brain as to where that is, it's the very northwest corner of Alabama. We're almost Tennessee and almost Mississippi, and I guess proud that we're neither, but based on what? I mean, I don't know. And if you are familiar or like music at all, Sam Phillips is from Florence, Alabama. The Fame Studio, there's a big, I think maybe one of the biggest Renaissance fairs in the world is here in Florence. But yeah, it's a college town, and sometimes we forget it's a college town, and there's studios, and sometimes we forget there's studios. But then, back in the day, you might see a George Jones or an Aretha Franklin or the Rolling Stones mobbing around town, and more recently, a Jason Isbell, or if you saw the video, the photos of Lana Del Rey, where she did a shift at the Waffle House, that was the one that's 5 minutes down the road. So
Nice.
it's like a small town, but at the same time, you might get smacked in the face by a celebrity sighting and you just never really know when. And what's really cool, on a personal level, is most of my family settled in this area and they haven't gone very far. And I can say that has really been the draw for me to come back is, starting a family and you get older, you realize how important those relationships are. So you come back and the aunts and uncles and parents and grandparents are all around, and that's really hard to beat.
For sure. Tyler, what's the name of the studio that you were mentioning?
Fame.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And if you watch the documentary Muscle Shoals, I'm actually on the river here. I can look over the river and see Muscle Shoals right now and see the lights. So it's real close by. It's a Quad Cities area, and it's a town of 40,000 people. But when you lump it all together, it's getting into that medium sized, at least for this region of the world.
Truckload of super hits from some legendary artists out of that little zone right there.
Oh yeah, and you go look at it and go tour it, and it's so unassuming, and then you'll see some lyrics on the wall, and you squint and walk up to it, and it's like, hey, the Stones scribbled out the last verse of this, and we decided to frame it and hang it here, and they laid down the track, and the rest is history. And it's like, man, that's for an unassuming little town. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah. I would never have guessed Northwest Alabama as a significant Ren Fair location.
Well, you've got the name Florence, and we just took it and ran with it. And there's actually a huge rotating tower here that, you can go have dinner in it and see all the sights, and it rotates at a very slow pace. But it just became this small, medium, and then eventually a large-sized Renaissance fair that I wouldn't say it quite shuts the town down, but it shuts downtown down for quite a while, a week. And then, outside of that and Fame Studio, there's jazz, blues, W.C. Handy Festival here that shuts us down for another week. And if you like live music, this is not a bad place for it, surprisingly.
That's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Looks like Sheffield is right across the river too.
Oh yeah, spent a lot of time over there. A lot of good barbecue over there. I don't know what they're doing over there that we're not doing over here, but it's worth the drive.
Ty, so you have come full circle and landed back there, but you kind of did a little tour in the middle, right?
Yeah, I did. And, obviously I've got to make this about knives because that's kind of where, of the 7 to 10 things that I care about, that's one of them. So, I mentioned all those folks growing up that I came back to live close to. And I would say my first obsession with like knives in general was seeing, a grandfather and an uncle, and they were both. And to this day, if I see a 3-blade Stockman, I've got to stop and look at it. But they'd pull it out of the pocket. They'd use that coping blade for everything. I mean, both of them. It was just a rounded tip. There was no point left on it. But it was one of those things that it's just like, all right, I got to get me one of those. Those guys are cool, and I want to be cool too. And I have to say, by probably about 5 or 6, and I hope my son doesn't listen to this because he's 6 and there's no way I'd let him do this. But my mom was like, all right, when you're not at school, you're responsible enough to carry a knife. And it's like, okay, Mom, great. But what she knew is the punishment was, well, we're gonna take it away if you do anything bad. So that was you got to give the token to take it away. And in the interim, I spent a lot of time, working in stock rooms. And of course that Stockman came out and opening boxes and stocking shelves, etc. And then eventually I went off to school, and, undergrad was, I'd say it was a stressful time, and it was mostly stressful because I couldn't buy knives. But hey, I did have this really cool Leatherman Wave, and I ended up spending a lot of time in the lab because they let me work there and they pay me for it. And I was mostly cleaning equipment, taking things apart. And I just thought it was really neat to have that on my hip the whole way. I'm in Alabama. I'm in chemical engineering. I am a chemistry nerd. That's why I went into chemical engineering, and they're letting me clean this lab for free. And, lo and behold, this little tool that I thought would be something that would end up in a drawer ended up, pretty much in my pocket almost every day and used pretty regularly until the, joints are just, as they do, just absolutely loose. It's like a ballet song at this point, but hey, that's what it's all about.
Well,
and go ahead.
In your pocket, or was it in the sheath?
I didn't want to scare people with the sheath, so I wasn't dad enough yet to make it look unassuming. No, absolutely. The wave on the hip and then the big cell phone on the other. That's no problem. Like, what are these cargo pockets for? I don't know. It's on the hip.
Right.
But, I'm again, going on into grad school and moving out west, maybe I had it in my head, maybe it was real, but I was like, I don't think I can carry something that big. So after cleaning the lab and finding a Leatherman super useful, but wanting to be a little more unassuming, I switched to that Leatherman Micro because I had good luck with the brand. I'm a user, and I ended up doing a lot of microfluidic research out there. So I've got a little micro in the drawer here that's just, down to the nub because I was doing a lot of injection molding and doing lab on a chip stuff. And when they didn't meld together right, I would use that blade to pop them apart as though there weren't 700 other better, cheaper tools to do that. I thought it's neat to do it this way.
Right.
And so I thought, hey man, this is super cool, and I'm going to keep doing this. And then eventually I realized there were better tools and bigger knives. And, that was grad school. We in that little tenure there and say, all right, I want to come back as far south as fast as I can because I thought I'd learned my lesson about leaving home. So I end up in Kingsport, Tennessee, which I think was a really cool place to end up, if for no other reason than that's where my granddad actually got his start. And I didn't know that until many years after I'd lived there, but he had started his career there as well. And the first thing I did is decide that, hey, I'm back in the South. I need a big knife. So what did I do? I got the CRKT M16. I believe Kit Carson has his fingerprints all over that. But that was one of those things that I got one of those and I liked it so much. I had to buy one for everybody that I thought was cool so they could be cool too.
That's a fantastic knife. I think many of us have owned sometimes many versions of that same knife.
Yeah, and I guess at least with me, with the mission guides the me. What is that expression? The mission guides the gear train. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. It's an old Pat Rogers expression. But the connecting the dots on this gear train. When I get in a new situation, the first thing I need is a new knife to meet the new mission. You really don't, but hey, it's a good excuse.
We don't need much of an excuse most of the time, but that's a solid one.
And I guess the other thing with all this, and this is a tangent on the tangent, but with knives and guns and whatever you're getting into, you got to pick a direction, and that's hard and expensive and difficult, and we all learn it the hard way. But for a young guy, you think, well, I'm going to get into guns, and then you go down the gunsmith route, and then you go down, well, I want to reload. Well, I want to collect, and then eventually, if you're me, you're like, I just want to be a shooter. I don't need to know every part and piece, and I don't need to have tens of thousands of dollars of equipment to work on them. And other people do go that route, and I love them for it. But, same with knives. Do you want to be a collector, a user, a hoarder? Some people get into just, I'm a sharpener, and I can get it razor sharp. And, and short of making it your career, you just got to figure out which direction do you want to go. And there again, I'd probably say I'm somewhere between collector and user, and shamefully not a sharpener. I usually send it back or just use it dull because I'll do more harm than good if I get it out. So my bucket list of things to improve, but yeah. Anyway, so I started that new job and I was in, materials manufacture and got sent overseas the first time to Saudi Arabia. Fun trip. Took almost no pictures because that wasn't allowed. Came back for a couple of years and then ended up in Taiwan for a while. And then that's where, I'd say that's one of the first places I really started getting the bug for photography is I came back and liked to show off those pictures and the composition. I had no idea what I was doing, and looking back, they're totally crap, but hey, it was a good time. And then after that, there was some trips to Belgium and some more domestic locations. But in every single one of those situations, you're constantly trying to figure out what's the coolest blade. But, at this point in time, my eyes are still closed and I don't really know about this custom world, and I've got a little money in my pocket now. And then all of a sudden, things kind of come together all at once. So I got into playing pool in my free time. Of course, you want a custom cue. Who doesn't want a custom cue? Because if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. And I'm looking at the ends of these pool cues, and there's this stuff, this Yalla stuff, as we call it, it's Westinghouse. Well, what's this Westinghouse business? So I get into some of the custom pool cue forums, and I'm looking around, and I say, oh, that's neat, that's neat, that's neat. Where do I get this stuff? And I'd say that's probably my first introduction to something other than these are case knives, these are Spider Crows, there's actual customs out there, is I end up on blade forums. And looking back, I laugh at old me, but I say, I am furious that all these blade guys are taking this Westinghouse stuff that I need for my other hobby, and they're putting it on these knives. But it doesn't take but about 30 to maybe 60 seconds of looking, and then now all of a sudden I am absolutely infatuated. I've got to find out more about all this stuff. And as you mentioned, that foray. You're playing around on blade forums, and you hear about this place called the Cove on the USN, and first thing you got to do is join up and figure out what it's all about. And now I've taken you from I'd say the early 2000s all the way to maybe 2011 or 12. And it's all just been about what in my mind seemed like the natural progression of I'm a user, it's the Stockman, no wait, it's the multi-tool because that's handy when you're far from home. And, now all of a sudden it's this custom world, and I've got money burning a hole in my pocket, and I've got these cool materials that someone will slap some stuff on there. And I'd say one of the things that also sealed the deal right before I got on USN, the first of all of you that I met virtually was actually Tom over on, I believe, Badger and Blade. I don't know if you remember that, Tom.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, I was
just
learning
going
about
back and forth.
razors.
Yeah, and you had some really cool custom stuff you'd done with some cool materials, and it's like, all right, well, wait a minute. It's not just Westinghouse. Here's some natural material. Here's some other synthetics. Let's run with this. So, I venture on over. I'm in Tom's group, and I find these other guys, and it's like, wait, these are some like-minded individuals. Dig a little deeper, and who do I find? I know you know well, Tom. Jenny and Daniel are there in Kingsport and working with me at the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Again, I'm like, all right, super small world, and look around a little more, and here's Bill Hall at Tri-City Custom Knives and Vince Roberts at Fort Henry. Marsh makes trips, on a semi-regular basis. And I usually would catch up with him, with Jenny and Daniel. And it's like, hey, okay, this is a happening place for knives. And then, side note, there's Smoky Mountain Knife Works. It's an hour down the road. Frost Cutlery is not too far away. And, one other aside is, the folks that I worked with, a lot of them were into cows, and they all had this bookkeeper they talked about whose husband made knives. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I hear that all the time, and I know you guys too. And at that point, I'm a little bit jaded. And finally, the guy whips out his phone and starts showing me pictures. He's like, man, you need to see these knives. I don't know what he's on, but he's on to something here. Come to find out, it's C. Gray Taylor. And if you're in the art knives at all, you know that he's that dude. And I'm like, all right, this is definitely a cool place for knives. So growing up in Florence, getting introduced to knives from family, getting to go to Sargent's Cutlery. If you're a slip joint / case guy, Sargent's is headquartered here in Florence. They were one of the first places outside of case that was allowed to do official laser engraving on knives. I think their two biggest sellers for years and years and years were anything with Alabama on it, the University of Alabama's football team, or John Deere, and they made a mint off that. And that was a cool era of fostering that collector mindset, let's say. And Jim Sargent especially, and his kids are still running the business, but he would autograph a copy of his book every time he published a new one. And it was his Knives and Razors book that it was kind of like Beckett for baseball cards, except it would just be pictures of knives and razors. And you couldn't do this today, but it's a print catalog with, a little 3x3 picture of this particular knife or razor, and it gives you a value of it. And people would flock to that book and say, well, according to Jim's book, it's this. But it's like, okay, well, I've got this great resource here to teach me a lot about knives and let me see a lot about these slip joints. And then I fast forward and I move somewhere else. And then, after those several experiences, like there's got to be a pocket of cool guys collecting everywhere. And, spend enough time on USN and go to enough get-togethers, and absolutely right.
Yeah, you just got to find the people, right? And that's the key. And in the number of times that I've found the people without even really trying to find the people is shocking.
Well, and it's one of the cool aspects of the get-togethers, and we all bemoan the difference between get-togethers and shows. I feel like, and it's been a minute since I've been to Blade, but I had this epiphany one day that's like, well, and it's no offense to them, but they're selling concessions and entry and whatever. The people at Blade aren't necessarily selling blades; they're selling the experience, and no offense to them, but the get-togethers, there's nothing to sell. It's just the camaraderie, and so. That's where I think about that very first time that Sean sent me his number and said, hey, man, give me a call. And we chatted a little bit, and come to find out there's a little shindig in Kentucky. And why don't you come up to the house the night before? We'll feed you. We'll have a good time. And I'd say a good time was had. And if I look at the list of names of folks who were there, still keep in contact with them today, learned a lot from them. I'd say even watching them be dads and raise their kids, now that I've got one that's coming up, I'm like, yeah, I pick on Sean about this sometimes, but when we first started talking, if I called it story time when he was reading The Shade, hey buddy, I got a priority here and it ain't you right now. And I've stolen a page out of that book to, that's sacred time. We don't mess with that. Reading time, that's a big deal. So let's knock these books out.
Right on, man.
Oh, dude, that makes me happy.
Time is gone really quick.
Oh, dude.
It's a fact.
And you can't get it back.
Dude, he's 16, and I'm trying to find... If I could read him a short story every night, I would, but that's
Right.
uncool.
Totally uncool, Dad. Come on, man.
And pretty cool when you need some fucking money, right?
Right?
How much is it worth, you old man? Have me sit down right here.
Read me a story.
Truth.
Too funny. Yeah, I've said it in a couple times in past episodes, right? The people that I met through the USN and times after, many of them have made me a better man as a person. You know what I mean? I've learned a lot, and learned a lot of things to do, learned a lot of things, a whole lot of things not to do, right? As long as you're willing to learn both ways, I think I'm certainly a better person for it, for having had all of those experiences.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Part of life is figuring out what it isn't.
There you go. So you talked about using knives in the lab and that kind of stuff. So talk a little bit about the kinds of work you've done over the years. Like for people that aren't familiar with a chemical engineer, you were involved in the textile industry kind of stuff, right?
Sure.
And maybe just kind of hit some high points on what exactly that means so people understand sort of what your job has looked like over time.
So, very early beginnings, undergraduate research, I was doing particle synthesis, and it was more chemistry than chemical engineering, but it was inorganic synthesis. So didn't involve carbon, which I believe is harder than synthesizing with carbon. And it's really the only point in my career that I was doing inorganic synthesis. But what we were trying to do was make a particle that had a higher magnetic moment. So you think about a weak kitchen magnet, and you think about one of those neodymium magnets that's really strong. So we were trying to make these little microparticles that had a higher moment to put on the film, the little spinning drive. That way, when it was doing the ones and zeros, a higher moment means it takes less of an impulse to record a 1 or a 0. So we were trying iron nitride and just different combinations of inorganic material to put more 1s and 0s on the same size film, so storage can go from 1 gigabyte to 2 gigabytes or whatever we were doing back then. And we thought that was really something. And then side note, this solid state stuff comes along and it's just market disrupting, and everything we were working on just goes in the trash. But in the meantime, you pick up some skills and learn some cool stuff. And then the next step in grad school was microfluidics, lab on a chip. So if you could imagine in your brain like an NCAA bracket that splits and splits and splits and splits, what we were trying to come up with was an injection molded chip where you could take a dot of blood, stick it on there, let it split and split and split. And when it gets to the very end, you'd have these indicators that were either clear or they'd turn color if Hep A, Hep B, Hep C, whatever you're trying to test for in some remote region. Because what the medical professionals figured out is cross-contamination between these devices was causing them to treat patients ineffectively. And cleaning, especially in remote regions, was almost impossible to eliminate that cross-contamination. So we were trying to make something disposable. And we got, I don't know, one step further, maybe a half step further with the research that I did. And, what was I doing? I was taking these cycloolefin copolymer chips. I was grafting polymer on there because when you put the dot of blood on there, the blood wants to stick to the chip. So all I was doing was coming up with different coatings to put inside that little channel. That was about the diameter of a hair, and make sure that it made it all the way to the indicator rather than just plating out on the chip. And I thought, well, all this stuff is super. I'm having a good time. I missed the plant. So I'd done some co-op in the textile world, some flame retardant materials. Speaking specifically about subway awnings, we were coming up with a flame retardant material to make sure that it didn't change the Pantone of their perfect color green. And I was like, you know what? I miss going out in the plant. I miss having a hard hat. I've spent a lot of time in the lab, but I don't think my heart's in the lab from now on. And so that's where I say I'm jumping out of grad school because I don't want to be a lab rat for the rest of my life. Get the master's, go home, like I say, as fast as I can. And then I go into what I most would call commodity level production. We're making rail cars of stuff. We're sending stuff to 1,000,000-gallon tanks. We're making solvents for paints. We're making epoxies. We're making resins. We're making chemicals that go into, everything from screwdriver handles to quick dry materials like think about your Nike workout gear and all that stuff. And I had a blast doing that. And that's where we figured out, as patents are running out and someone's probably going to copy our technology anyways, why don't we just sell them a license to show them how to do it the right way, more efficiently, so they don't fumble around in the dark 15 years making mistakes until they finally get it right. And so that's ultimately where a lot of the travel came from, is just, hey, we've sold you this license. We're going to get you, you guys build the plant. We'll come and visit from time to time, or we'll be there on site as much as you want. And then when it comes time for startup, we're going to send, a whole group of people to make sure that you don't wreck this new asset that you've just built. And so that's, I'd say, mostly just in the solvent world. And there's some 1,000,000-gallon and 7,000,000-gallon tanks out there that today contain chemicals and plants that I had a very, very, very small part in, the design, setup, commissioning, and operation. And I'd say that's a lot of fun. That still doesn't answer the question of what a chemical engineer is. And I like to give the example that one of the professors at Alabama gave me. He said, if you consume, let's say there's 1 billion cans that are consumed on the 4th of July between Coca-Cola and beer and all the other things out there, if you could take that little tab on top and cut, a fraction of a penny off the production of that, you've saved a bunch of money. And so that's kind of what we do, especially on these more mature plants that have been around, is, hey, we make this for $1 and we sell it for $1.05. And the $1.05 isn't negotiable, but if you could drive that cost down to 99.5 cents,
right.
Well, we sell 3 million pounds a day of this. So you do the math. So that's where we put our thinking caps on and try to improve that production cost, whether it's through shortening cycle time or using less steam or, whatever it may be. But when I made the move back home, I went from making rail cars to making, it was probably a jump in between lab and commodity level. And I got into the adhesives and abrasives world. And that's where, it all kind of came together for me. It's like, I've seen these abrasives before. I've seen them in Sean's shop. They're on a belt, but I'm couple of steps upstream before they get deposited on the belt. But this is really cool. And here's this epoxy. I've used this epoxy and getting some scales on some knives when Sean wasn't afraid to let me pull my fingerprints off in his shop, just being an idiot. But yeah, we had a good time. And going into those materials companies and into those materials roles, I think it's probably a lot more fun because it's the kind of thing where you can walk through Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, and point at every other shelf and say, I made a part that goes into that. I made something sticky that goes on that. I made something non-sticky that goes on that. And that's pretty cool too.
Yeah. That's one of the things that's, I think sometimes challenging for people that are in various kinds of engineering fields or even in the manufacturing side of it is a lot of times what people work on are things that are hidden away, right? Or they're a precursor to a product, or they're a key part of the manufacturing process of a product. Like you said, the commodity kind of stuff, right? That's on a rail car. And okay, the rail car goes by, you have no idea what's in it. And but happens to be that what's inside is something I worked on. And you'll never understand how that thing that I made or contributed to ends up in a product in your home or in your job or whatever, but it's there. And then the contrast to, that's one of the things that really drew me to the auto industry when I was a young kid was that's a real thing. I can see it driving down the road, right? And like you said, whether it's standing in the aisle at Home Depot and looking at an abrasive or looking at a car driving down the road, it's like there's a direct connection to that. And it's very real and it's easy to get excited about, at least for me, right? That makes it a lot more fun.
Well, and I on some frequency get someone, hey, my kid wants to be an engineer and what do you do? And I know a lot of people, I'd say more like you, it's like, well, this is what I've done. And for better or worse, I've just done so many different things. I'm a mile wide in my career. I mean, even now I'm doing equipment reliability, which is pretty far removed from anything that I've ever done.
Yeah.
But I can give you a little example from each and everything. But I can say one of the most rewarding things, whether you could, if you work in a power plant and say, hey, those lights are on because of me, or that roll of blue tape doesn't stick too much to your paint and doesn't rip your paint off because of a little contribution that I made. Those sometimes are more fun than just being able to say, well, there's a rail car full of stuff that's flammable that it was one of those 60 that just went by with the graffiti on it. And trust me, it's important.
Right. Yeah. I think a universal thing, and this was the way I tried to explain it to my kids when they were young, when they would ask, is they would say, what do you do, Dad? And I would say, well, basically I solve puzzles. There's like something that's wrong or broken, or maybe that just needs an answer that doesn't have an answer. And my job is to go figure that out. So it's kind of like solving a puzzle. And I think that sort of made sense to him, but a lot more to it than that. But
well, you got to be there in it. And I would say part of why in the field trips that I've taken to Sean's and everything else, there's a part of probably you and definitely me that says, some of the things that I make will probably kill you if you inhale them or kill you if you touch them. And it's nice to have something tangible to show from your day. And that's part of why I'm, head over heels about photography now. And now that I'm into digital photography and getting prints and making books out of what I do, sometimes it's cool to be able to say I helped with XYZ, but it's even better to be like, hold your hands out and I'm going to put this photo book in your hands. And I did something today. That part, sometimes it's hard to explain your job. And some days I get a little bit jaded. What did I do? I play in Excel all day. That's what I do.
right.
You know that feeling.
Yes. Yeah. Right. I was a PowerPoint jockey today. That was my contribution to the world. I know. Sometimes it'd be like that, Birch.
I had to laugh at the, solving puzzles and problems, but then I'm like, we do the same, but I also cause the problem.
Right.
The puzzle.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got a mirror and it's me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, it's interesting stuff. And I think, like you said, it's a really, if you take a minute, have a cup of coffee or whatever your version of relaxing looks like and look at the scope, it can be a little bit crazy, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Like you said, the breadth can be big. And sometimes when it feels narrow, if you look at it maybe with a little bit less of magnification on it, there's a lot there, right? And and drawing on all of that stuff, like you said, doing machine reliability kind of stuff now, as a chemical engineer, it's like you get prepped for that in ways that you'd never expect, right? Stuff that you experienced and did, and problems you had to solve that suddenly that might have seemed irrelevant if someone were trying to connect those dots. Bam, they jump right out.
Well, sure. And in that, esoteric, arcane, and irrelevant, sometimes it's not. And I tell people, I'd say knife collecting / what little bit of making I've done under the tutelage of Sean and one or two others, it really has paid dividends, because occasionally, the run out, what's that? I don't know that. I'm a chemical guy. I'm not a mechanical guy. And people hear engineer and they assume that we're all Mr. Wizard. We're not. We have our lanes. And, there's things about metallurgy and heat treat and everything else that the lowly chemical engineer wasn't supposed to know, and I could hold my own, not because of school, but because I got out there and lived life and made some mistakes and got a couple of scars just, working in the garage. And, those are the kinds of things where things are irrelevant until they're not. And then sometimes you might know the one key piece of information about temper or heat treat that nobody else in the room knew. And so it's, all knowledge is good and some of it's useful.
Yeah. My son is very interested in engineering, and I think chemical engineering is probably maybe where he ends up if he goes that route. So we'll see.
Yeah, I would, if he's interested, I'd be happy to talk him out of it or talk him into it, depending on how you feel.
Yeah, we've actually got a Science Olympiad invitational head to tomorrow. So
I love seeing all the science content that you put out there, and I'm thinking, ooh, that's neat. I'm going to steal that. We're gonna have a little daddy son time, and instead of just playing video games, maybe we'll do one of those egg drop experiments or something. And of course, I'm the only one excited.
It really is just fun.
We're gonna do what, Dad?
Yeah. Can we light it on fire? No.
Right.
Well, we could.
Right. Can we blow it up?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Stephen Covey thing, right? Begin with the end in mind on that whole deal, right? Like people, I think sometimes I had experiences where guys I went to college or high school with went and got engineering degree and didn't really understand what the real job was.
Sure.
Right. At least what most of the real jobs are. Right. And ended up, working in sales for a industrial company or something. Right. Or whatever. And the cool part is that there's I know a whole bunch of chemies that do auto work that aren't in a chemie lane. Right. My daughter-in-law is a chemie and she's a software person at the company. And so once you kind of get down a path and get some experience under your belt, the good news is if you really want to, it's not hard to pivot and do other stuff. You just got to bring some relevant skills to the table and find your way in the door.
Well, I always want to preach the superiority of the chemical engineer, even though I know that's not true. Again, there's a mission and there's a gear train and there's room for chemists and biologists and chemical engineers. But I do say, if you have any interest in going into med school or dentistry school or pharmacy school, if you don't get in, your fallback plan is pretty cool. But if you do get in, you typically do pretty well, because there's something about an engineering education that for some, not for all, it teaches you how to not just learn, but apply it.
Right.
And I'd say the same thing for internships and co-ops and whatever you want to call them. The sooner you can learn something, put a hard hat on and go do it, it'll stick with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes that requires getting over yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, okay, yes, I know you're an engineer and you're wanting to be an engineer and you're on the path, and go get your hands dirty for a little while, because that experience will benefit you in ways that you won't appreciate for a while, but eventually you will, because they're super fundamental.
Oh yeah, and the fear of failure. I'm sure you guys, when you're toiling away in the shop and grinding and designing and whatever it is that you're doing, I just like to keep that analog going. It was like, there's still that fear of failure, that even though we've got all the calculations, there's still, I'd say, probably more than people realize, with whether it's NASA or a room full of other engineers, there's still that, hey, y'all watch this moment where you just got to believe.
Yep. Yeah, we'd all love to have miles and miles of data to make decisions with on things, and the reality is that you almost never do.
That's right.
Or if you do, you're too late to the party to actually go make a buck, which in the end is at the bottom line of all of it. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I tell people at work, it's not about money, but if you miss one paycheck, I'm going to stop coming. So it's probably mostly about money.
Right. Michael, Sean, Tom, you guys got any questions for Tyler based on kind of where we are in this whole thing?
No, I've just been intrigued by his story about how he got to what he's doing.
Yeah.
But
right.
Let's get some knives, man. Let's get some collecting.
Yeah. All right. Well, I would say, if we want to start at the beginning, I'm going to start it at the USN beginning, because that was really my true baptism, and which end is up, etc. And the very first knife that I hate the word grail. If you've ever talked to me, I feel like, and this is because I'm jaded by Indiana Jones. When he got the Holy Grail and he drank from it, he stopped. And I feel like if you found your grail knife, you're good. But that's just my opinion. But the very first knife that I fixated on was a Les George FM1. I've still got it. Every time I pull it out, I still think, man, this is a cool blade. And I'd say that was probably around 2012-ish. Someone in France had it, and I pestered them for months until they finally sold it to me. And as soon as it came in, they asked me to send it back to them, and they'd give me more money to send it back. But I just decided it needed to be mine. And let's see, again, 2012-ish. I get a little DM from Sean. He sends me his phone number. We chat, and he tells me to come up to Kentucky. And I finally get my hands on a couple of Kendrick knives, and lo and behold, I'm smitten, and nothing else will do. And if you guys have had a chance to look through any of the info that was sent out, I've collected probably more than my fair share of Kendrick knives, but Sean's got a few maxims about deserve that are very fitting, but I'll just say I've got more than I deserve. But as he says, heaven help us all if they start handing out the deserves, and I believe that.
Well said. Well said.
And, if you look at the collection, it also, and some of the compendiums or whatever you want to call it, the group shots that I've put together, it kind of is a metaphor for how my brain works and how I collect is, you got to get them all, or at least one of each. And you got to own every model to figure out what your favorite is, right? And once you figure that out, what your favorite material or finish is, and, there's just a bottomless pit of want when it comes to that. So I would say that exploration, not just the knives. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the knifeography or the photography that I learned it from watching you, Mark. It's your fault. But you and Ron Smith both were handy with the camera, and I feel like they go hand in hand, at least for me.
For sure.
And in a very Judge Holden sense, if you're familiar with that reference, if it exists without my existence, it exists without my permission. So I've got it documented in my little book, or in my case, if you want to get super organized, I've actually got a OneNote where I've got a page for each knife, where I got it, what's the backstory. I mean, why do I do it? I don't know. Sometimes it's nice to know I got this knife from this person, and this person's interested, and I'm never going to sell it, but I at least know that I get to rub it in their face because they want to buy it from me next time I post it.
It's a thing.
Yeah. And similar vein with slip joints. And this is one of the few soliloquies that if you ever catch me at a knife show when it's after midnight and I want to ramble, I think you guys can appreciate with the tactical, and even with a little while I thought about being a hobby maker. Still haven't given up on that. With the tactical world and the art world, I feel like it's more of let's say a guitar solo. It's got to be a little bit different each time. It's got to be your own thing. It's got to rock. It's got to make people move in a way that they didn't know or scratch an itch that they didn't know they had. and maybe I'm overcomplicating it, but that was one of the hardest parts for me was, you know, to tackle the tactical world is like, you can't just make a good knife. You got to make a good knife that looks like you. Right. And the other half of my collection, if for anybody who's been around me, I've probably got as many or more custom slip joints as I do the tacticals. And what's the analog to that? I feel like it's classical. You get rewarded the closer you stay to the original sheet music, if that makes sense. And that's one of the things that, you know, you get pick a Zulu, a Stockman, or whatever from 5 different guys, and you hold them all up and you appreciate the same and the different and the materials and, we did this finish and this one's a shadow pattern and this one's, you know, etc. But that's where I go through these phases and stages where I got to have this next Kendrick, and then here's a shiny Tabor over here. And you guys know I'm pretty deep into Dr. T and his son, Jason's knives. And, you know, anytime I see one of those that's a little too shiny, I've got to have it too. Yeah. Of course, I got to catalog it and put it in the system. And I've got a little inventory system. So I joke, but you guys are on the hook, and a few others too. If something happens to me, just make sure they don't end up in a yard sale.
Right, exactly.
Oh, no, I'm going to lowball Leah and then make a kill.
You would. I don't blame you.
I don't know what it is about that. We probably did splinter around the same time. The whole spiral off into the traditional knife or the slip joint knife world.
Yeah, you know, the knife collecting world for me started with the case slip joints. And over time, you see these customs and then, you know, again, tie-ins. My brother-in-law does some stuff with cows, and he's like, I met this guy the other day that does cow stuff down near Coleman. Ploppert's his name. You ever heard of him? I'm like, ever heard of him? Yeah, he's kind of a big deal, bud. But, you know, that keeps the interest as things wane in the technical world. And maybe you hadn't seen anything that piqued your interest. All of a sudden, you find this, you know, one-armed opener slip joint. And it's like, oh, that's a cool thing. I've never owned one of those. I've got to own 6 of them.
Right. I think when I spun into the slip joint world, it was in part because I could, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, oh, hey, these are actually available, right? And there's really nice stuff. And makers that are very active in producing. And if you are at all into what you mentioned, right, this feels like a very engineer thing. I know lots of non-engineer people who do it, but the collect on a theme, right? Whether it's a pattern or a material or whatever. Man, the well is deep in that world. It is. And attainable, right? Usually oftentimes at much lower prices than some of the tactical stuff. And they're gorgeous, right? And timeless, right? They were cool when that pattern was developed in the 1800s, right? Or whatever. And they're still cool today. And there's riffs on a bunch of old school stuff. But in the end, it's largely historical based, right? And there's something really, really cool about that.
And for better or for worse, and I know some guys have broken this trend, but you can also kind of gauge them towards the standard, capital V, and whether that's, you know, what Tony Bowes did or whoever in your mind is just the supreme. You can gauge it next to that. And then sometimes you get these tactical knives and they look cool and maybe there's a cool following, but you get it in hand and you think, that doesn't really fit. That doesn't feel good. It looks good. It didn't really feel good. I don't really want to carry that.
Yeah. With you, man. Well,
but that gets into the buy the maker and buy their knives and buy their philosophy, because after the theme and the hype burn out, if you like the guy that made it and you like how they made it and you'd sit down and have dinner with them, that's all that really matters.
Yeah. I've known that you've always been a buy the maker as much as you buy the knife sort of guy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, preaching to the choir there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've talked about that a bunch on the show too. I think that all, you know, we've talked a lot about getting to shows and meeting people and talking to makers, and I think for some people that feels out of reach. I don't think most of the time it's as out of reach as people think it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go to a couple shows, you'll figure out real quick that these are real folks, right? Making real stuff, and they're absolutely happy to chat with you about knives.
And you guys won't wear this and you'll resist it, all of you. But what is a celebrity? I don't know, but I can say that in my mind, there's an asymmetrical relationship, and for better or worse, for the last 4 or 5 years, however long you guys have been doing this, plus however long you've been on USN and Facebook, I probably know a lot more about you guys than I realize. And so sometimes even that hump of like, oh, that's Tom and XYZ, or, that's Michael and I know he's busy, and what's even worse is sometimes there's weirdo people like me that start out mid-conversation about a science Olympiad thing, and I forget that you're not in my head, and you haven't been talking about that the whole way to Atlanta.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some hesitancy, but I'd tell anybody who has any hesitancy, find a show that has some guys that make some stuff that you like and show up. And if you're like me, and this is probably the point in the show where I would give a couple of shout outs, but guys like Sean and Jeremy Horton and, Stout and a few others that every show that I've ever been to, starting from the very first one, they treated me like an old friend, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And if I look at Facebook and I've got 370 something friends in common, I've got them to thank for that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a big deal, that piece of it. And I think there's plenty of folks who aren't about the buy the maker thing that we kind of talked about a few minutes ago, but I don't know. It sure works for me. And it just makes the whole thing different. It takes it to a different level for sure.
Well, and then it runs deep, and it ends up being the family you chose. And just a little tangent about going to shows and things, change is constant. We know that. But I think about the first good old days that I'd go back and, I'd like to go to one of those shows. But I remember looking for guys like Brian Glowacki and Keith McClendon and Marquis and Matt Harris and a few others. Once you guys went off to the makers dinners and whatnot, these are the guys that I'm going to go break bread with and go hang out with. And, again, if we'd have known those were the good old days, we would have enjoyed it more and we would have stayed up a little bit later. But I can say, as you said before, just being around those fellows and learning from them, it made me a better man, and I thank them for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're looking at your knives gallery, Tyler.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of really nice stuff in here. Do you have anything in particular in here that you want to point out or that you think is cool, or stuff, a couple of interesting pieces you'd be willing to share in the Facebook group after this comes out?
Yeah, I could share whatever, and I would point out one because it's a funny story, and I hope my wife is already logged off if she ventures to listen to this. But the lore behind the Ruiner, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, because you would be the world's foremost expert, but I believe you and I were on the phone when you decided to name that one.
Yeah.
The second one, the all black one that has the blue lock side and it's carbon fiber and zirconium, that was the beta prototype, I believe.
I believe so, yes.
And I tell this story as a joke on myself about that mechanism that says no but yes. And that knife actually got offered to me the time I was coming up to your house. I had a catastrophic engine failure. I'm 3 hours from home. I'm waiting on the wife to come pick me up and follow the tow truck home to get this poor 300,000 mile Nissan Pathfinder to its final resting place. And the owner of that lived down in Knoxville. And I kid you not, I hung up the phone with Leah, and she's like, all right, I've got it in the GPS. I'm going to do my best to get there and not get lost. And a couple seconds later, I get this ping on Messenger. And it's someone offering me to sell that knife at a price that was more money than I had and less money than I'd ever be able to buy it for. And without hesitation, I said yes.
Right.
I always tell people that is the worst, best investment I ever made. I didn't have it to give, but I'm so glad I gave it anyways.
Yeah. It's like that sometimes, for sure.
It is. The timing's not always right, but once you get it in the collection and all the dust settles and the insurance money comes in, you're like, yeah, I probably made the right move here. And I know, Mark, you've joked before that at one point in time was the most photographed knife in history because I just kept hammering it home. But I was like, I paid a high price for this one. So it's, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get some value out of that thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Cost averaging, I think they call it in the business world.
That's right. That's right. I mean, it doesn't cost anything for me to take pictures. And, there again, people ask me photography tips and whatnot on taking knives. My best tip on taking pictures of knives is, you'll probably laugh at me. I took about 1,000 a month for no other reason than I wanted to get better. I was like, you don't get 10,000 hours without putting in 10,000 hours. And I'm not going to do this for a living, but I'm going to get better at it by trying it.
Yeah.
I've helped a lot of people get a little ways. And, the one thing that makes me grimace when people say, or post pictures and they've got these fancy knives on concrete, get you some modeling clay from a craft store and make a little ball. And then you can kind of mash it down in there. And then it's not actually on the concrete. So you're not sending it back to spa just because you got a little antsy and wanted to post that picture. And now it's all scratched up.
Yeah.
And another one I got, and I want to say his name again because I don't want him to be forgotten. One of the proudest knives I ever got, and if you guys remember, Marquis used to wear those overalls all the time, and he had that chest pocket. And every time I saw him, before he even said hello, he would rush to unzip that and show me that he had the prototype of the Leviathan by Stout, which you guys, I've probably got 7 or 8 of them. I think it's 7, and that's not enough. We would always wave that in the air and say, "This is the one you'll never get." And say, "Well, you'll get it one day, but over my dead body, ha 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 ha." But we did have that aside one time. He's like, "I really do want this to go to you," and I told him, I said, "I really don't want to ever have that knife, but
Yeah.
I chat with Kim occasionally, and she reached out one day and said, I'm ready to let this one go, and I'm under strict instructions that it goes to no one other than you."
There you go.
And so, knives are just knives to some people. For others, they have meaning, they have provenance, they're a totem. And if I'm ever going into something really big and I need some luck or some karma or some sage wisdom from Mark, now that he's gone, I put that one in my pocket, and I don't know. I feel a foot taller. I'm a good 4'11" when I have that in my pocket.
There's a token or talisman thing with some knives, right? Because of who it came from, mostly. Something about certain pieces is just special, and I think in this circle we've gifted one another a bunch of knives over the years, and those pieces they mean a lot, man. Every time you pick one of those up, or like it's in your whatever you use for storage, and you pull it out, it's like, oh man,
yeah,
I'm gonna carry this today, right? My buddy gave me this thing. This is awesome, and it means a lot. I love that.
Yeah, and I have one that I ended up giving away that I let somebody talk me out of, and I shouldn't have. And that was, if you guys remember, and Nick Rolfe and I have a lot in common. We look alike, we sound alike. We just
about the same height.
About the same height. You know, both definitely smell good and super cool. I too almost got to be chalky white, but that's a story for another day. But we have this through line, like the Stout fanboy letter, where we both wrote these crazy fanboy letters.
Yeah,
but the story that, like, the thing that locked me into being his little bro for life is the Rexford Lotto. And it was super duper duper generous, and it was just a mistake on our part. But it was an alternating between a custom and a free production, and I would not knock a free knife, especially one as nice as those were. But he and I both were called number 2 and number 4, and really just truck sticked a lot of people to get to that table. And we both kind of had that look of like, free knife, super cool free knife. Thought we were getting a custom free knife, back and forth. And we bonded over that for years. And that's always one of those things that I come back to every time I see him. It's like, man, if free knife, but custom.
Holy shit. I laughed so hard when he came over with that.
Yeah, I think mine ended up with Laffer, and who knows, he probably flipped it into oblivion the way he likes to
Yes.
Open and close knives.
Oh yeah.
That boy's hard on a stop pin. Go ahead.
I miss those old days of like before this, like the idea of flexing or whatever, that subtle motherfuckery of it was just fun. You know, you'd have a little peek of a knife or something that you got hiding in the side and be like, oh, look at this, whatever,
In the
innocuous thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was all in fun, and it was just, I don't know. It wasn't really showing off. It was just like, hey, I got this. You don't. Fuck off. We're still best friends.
Yeah. It was very insider clubby, but also super, super entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. But that's a few of the key knives, and I could, again, bore you, and I have a written history of all of them that will bore somebody one day, but for now, it's just for me. But as you cruise around through that gallery, you'll notice there's some brass knuckles. You'll notice there's a lot of leather from the Foster brothers and some things that go bump in the night from Barry Jones and Ryan Johnson. As you can see, as much as I try to have a breadth of a collection, once I kind of latch on to, I like what this guy's doing, I got to collect all of it.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's absolutely a thing. Let's talk about some of that other stuff too.
Yeah.
Michael, did you have other knives you wanted to specifically ask about?
No, I know.
No. So let's talk about impact stuff, Tyler, because you got a pretty awesome collection of that stuff. Explain a little bit about what you're into there and why.
I don't know that there's a rhyme or a reason other than, number one, the Foster brothers, I had read a lot about them before I got on their group on Facebook. I asked to become a member about once a year, and I'd get declined. And then one day I got accepted. And then, it's really this simple. I got one from each of the brothers, and I was like, this is freaking awesome. And, I mentioned Chalky White. I believe one of the, if not both of the brothers, ended up making some props for Boardwalk Empire, and they are period accurate, and they are not just sellers of goods. They're students of leather stuff wrapped around lead, and not just students, but teachers. And they actually, if you find an old catalog with some of those police supply catalogs on eBay, you better buy it, because they're going to buy it if you don't.
Right.
And then they take pictures of it and they share it. And, teaching is at my core anyways, because I love to learn and I also love to teach about stuff. And these guys are like, not knocking anybody else's stuff, but we do this way for this reason, and not just period accurate, but it also lasts longer. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty sick. Yeah. And then, getting into Terry stuff, I'd say, and Sean was around the other day and he got to handle some of it. Some people make something that looks like a brass knuckle, but you put it, in your hand and it doesn't feel right. And Terry's the antithesis of that. It's like, it just kind of melts into your hand. It feels natural. And I think part of it is I probably have a hand about the same size as his. And part of it is it's just, man, it's so well thought out.
Let's back up for a second in case people didn't exactly follow. They might not recognize when you say Foster Brothers. We're talking about Foster Saps, right? That's really in large part. Yeah. And so that should ring a bell for a bunch of people as far as what we're talking about and who, right? Kind of the cornerstone.
Yeah, that's Todd and Scott, and I think one of them focuses more on the jacks, and one of them's more on the saps.
Right.
And there's a little crossover in between, and not just that, but they'll source antique locks and maybe get a braided piece of leather and put it on that lock, maybe decorate the lock first. And it really does get back to, there was a time and place where maybe the police force had these specific saps that they bought out of a Buchheimer catalog or whatever. Yeah. But the hobos and the tramps, they just kind of made these little makeshift weapons. And they'd make those little makeshift weapons, but they're pretty jazzy. They're not just thrown together. They're very thoughtful.
Yeah, they're gorgeous on top of all that.
Oh, right? Yeah.
Just beautiful leather work.
Yeah, and they're occasionally receptive to do something in black and red, which is one of my favorite color schemes. So when I see that, you got to race me.
Right.
You got to race me.
And then you mentioned Terry. Explain who you're referring to and a little bit about, you mentioned his knuckles and they are super cool.
So Terry Shanks is, I don't know, I guess he authentically lives that life. I don't want to speak on it too much because I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
We have exchanged DMs. We were talking as recently as last night, and I picked up another one, and he was, he's, you know, the kind of businessman, you want this? Yeah, sure. Okay. And we kind of keep it terse because I know he's a busy fella. I'd love to catch him at a show, and I know a lot of the Texas Southwest, you know, Arizona, those type shows. He does show up to those. You could go handle his stuff at a lot of those. And I would say if you pick one up, you're probably not going to want to put it down. So bring cash and enjoy what you got.
Yeah, they feel super traditional old school to me.
Yeah.
You know, and I know there's stuff in here that's not actual real deal traditional, but I mean, what does traditional mean in that world anyway, right?
Sure.
But they are super cool. And
if you want to know more about him, you know, number one, he's pretty active on Instagram, but number two, I believe that show Roamers on HBO. He was on a couple of episodes of that with, his name slips my mind. Come on, you guys help me.
Not sure.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Jason Momoa kind of did a photography tangent, a knife tangent, and he talked to some big names in the Harley world, and he probably had, 1.5 episodes that had Terry in it, and there was some really cool stuff going on in there about the heat and pressure that goes into making a knife or a knuck or anything else, and pretty authentic footage.
Yeah. You also have a nice collection of Jones Bros stuff.
Yeah, I'd say, Ryan Johnson and the Jones brothers both kind of fall into that same category of they're not just going to make something. It's going to be period correct. There's going to be a lesson behind it. There's probably going to be a book that you need to buy and read and reread and study on it. And it's not just, pocket trash, trinkets and things. It's actual well thought out, it fits in the handwrite. It conceals the way it's supposed to. And there's a really good history lesson behind the Mayans, the Aztecs, or whatever tribe that carried it that you can get into or not. Of course, me being a learner, I definitely want to get into it.
Yeah. Anything that there's a story attached to, right? How can you not like that?
I feel like specifically Ryan, just because he's closer and because he knows some of the same local history I do, because he's only a couple hours away. I feel like if I ever went up to Gold Point, I'd probably never leave. We would just talk each other into oblivion.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. We got to get Ryan on with us because I think that'd be fascinating.
Absolutely.
Deep dive.
Fantastic storyteller.
Yeah. A deep dive into the mind of Ryan Johnson. That sounds like a 6-episode series or something. Ryan's always putting out something interesting on Facebook, and sometimes it's rambly, and most times it's a great story and lots of history and just absolutely fascinating.
Tell you what, though, there's nothing better in life than finding someone that you fall into a rabbit hole of talking for hours and you don't even realize it.
Yeah.
God damn, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, Michael, you and I have talked comedy, and I'm going to interview you guys because I have to ask you a question so I can stop talking. But I heard a comedian recently say art can save your life, but entertainment can't. I started thinking about art that saved or changed my life. And I'll share one with you guys while you think, but I'm interested whether it guided your career or who you are as a father or who you are as a son. Can you think of any art that did that? And for me, there was something years and years ago by Deanne Dickerson called Leaving and Waving. And, it's hard for me to go back and look at, but it is a pictorial of her pulling out of the driveway after driving out to the Midwest to visit her folks. And every year she made it a tradition to take a picture. And you watch these people get older and older and older, and eventually the father dies, and eventually the last picture is a for sale sign in front of that. And, that was one of those things when you talk about art saving or at least changing your life. I saw that before I made the decision to move home. And I think, man, we're all fortunate if we can live close to some or all of our folks. And it really put into perspective, I don't want to be able to count my interactions with a brother, a cousin, an uncle, or anybody else by the 13 photos I had of them over the, my entire adult life. So do you guys have anything, artistically that really made you pivot into knife making, or maybe out of knife making into another venture?
I don't know about art doing it for me, but I know a solid panic attack when I sit behind a cubicle wall was a pretty good
Oh man,
reminder.
Speaking to my soul.
Yeah, that I was not in the place where I should have been.
Yeah. Well, I always wonder, is there, whether it's Conan the Barbarian or a song that left an impression on you, or a piece of art that just really changed your entire course of life. And like I say, that's one of those that I think, man, if you see that and you're not moved by it, you probably don't have a good relationship with your family, maybe. I don't know, but it's impactful.
It is super impactful. I know exactly the thing you're talking about. Very, I don't know, hits you right where it counts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I know from Sean's perspective, I see so many of his knives end up with, names of songs on it. I'm like, I can only imagine he was either drawing or grinding when that song came on. He's like, this one needs a name, and this is probably it.
Yeah, for sure. I think the story, attachment to the object, whatever, again, that goes back to like, if there's any such thing as one of these creations having a soul or anything like it, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's where it's at to me,
yeah.
right? Is the origin story, right? And sometimes it's not a fancy origin story, right? It might be super boring, but there also might be something to it, and that's just one of the beautiful things about the hobby.
Oh yeah. I mean, back to knives and family. I've got my grandfather's Stockman that probably, sparked the flame that became the fire. And it's, it's in one of his cigar boxes, and it's wrapped up in the receipt where he bought it in Knoxville back in the late 60s, early 70s. And every time I open that up, and, you smell the smell of his old cigars, and you see the paper that he wrapped it up in, it's like, oh man, this is cool. It's got its own built-in provenance.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish, and maybe it's a romanticized look at what we do and the people that collect, but I wish more people looked at it the way you do. It's like, it isn't just about grabbing the newest, hottest, whatever, but how does that piece actually make you feel?
Yeah.
Like, what does it do to you? What is it? I don't know.
How does it speak to you? On what level does it speak to you?
Yeah. And if it doesn't, is it just for the likes? Is it just for the whatever? I don't know. Just, it should speak to you in some way.
Yeah.
Well, there's, I quote Brian Glowacki more than I should, or maybe as much as I should. But one of the things he always used to tell me when I was getting a little knife crazy in the beginning is, you can have anything you want, you can't have everything you want. And so,
yeah,
knowing that you can save up and buy one or two, whether it's a Garage 6 because of that provenance, or whether it's, a custom S&G or whatever, pulls you into the fray. And then as you start to stare at them and say, well, what would be a knife that I'd want to carry for a long period of time? What would be a knife that I'd want to carry and have even if the maker stopped making? And, those decisions make you stop and think a little bit more about, I'm about to drop 3 mortgage payments on a blade that's either going to sit on a shelf or sit in my pocket or, get flipped next week. You gotta pick what your lane is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not always easy to find. Usually a journey.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Certainly for me, and an evolving one. And that's the really cool, the cool piece of it, right? Is it's not always the same, right? What I buy today is not what I used to buy by far. And there was a long time where I bought, sold, traded a lot, and I haven't sold a knife. I'm not even sure I can remember last time I sold a knife. It's been a long time because I know pretty much exactly what I want, or at least I know it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I'm getting bigger and bigger on, does it have a functional place? Because the collection's good, and there's always a core group of guys that if one pops up and the price is right and my money's right, and the day's right, I'm going to buy it. But then, there's been a few pieces from Tom that, I've tried to source and I haven't gotten there yet, but it's like, I want to buy that and beat on it when I'm out in the woods and make it mine. And, those honestly, I've got a collection of knives from family members that the ones that still have the Cosmoline on it don't mean nearly as much as the ones that like, oh, I remember when he bent that tip, he was, working on the car, and I remember him,
Yep.
throwing it in the ground or whatever like that. That's the cool stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
That weld spot on the blade.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Went from where it went somewhere it shouldn't have. Yep, for sure. No, I have some old slip joints from my grandfather and my dad that have that, sharpened down to little nubs on the blade kind of deal.
Yeah, you don't know what the original blade shape was.
Exactly.
A little bit left.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like a Texas toothpick that has like a 1.5 inch long blade that's curiously skinny.
Oh, yeah.
Got a lot of those.
What, Sean, where do you think we should go from here?
Man, let's get a quick overview. Man, your view on shows, your view on get-togethers. Which do you prefer? How should they be approached? Because you've been around a bit. You've been to a few shows. You've been to more than a few get-togethers, which are, a little more personal. So if you'd expound on that a little bit, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. And I mean, there was a post in your group just last night about someone talking about, I don't know, I'm going to boil it down to social anxiety. And I don't want to put this evil on you, Michael, but sometimes when you talk about, big shows or going out in public or dealing with people in general, I feel like you're thinking my thoughts for me sometimes. But
oh, God help you.
Oh, I know, right? We're going the wrong direction here.
We are so sorry.
Yeah, but we're kindred spirits in that sometimes it is a little bit overwhelming, and sometimes you're in a huge room full of people. And you kind of feel a little bit more lonely than if it was just 13 dudes who were all on the same wavelength talking about the same blades and the same lore and the same inside jokes. I think there's a place for both. I probably would like to go to more shows than I do, but I would say my experience with shows is a lot of times is, the conversations are a little bit rushed. The ones that I went to, post COVID, but pre me becoming a hermit the last year or two, I think they had improved. I think they had taken some feedback, and it wasn't just about the ever-present bucket of swords, get them in and out and get them gone. There was actually some fun customer experience there. But at the same time, the shows that I've stood behind someone's table and helped them sell merch that we designed together. And, I say we designed together. Jeff Rojas did his magic, and then I put it on a t-shirt blank or something. But I probably have more fun taking the time to stop and talk to each individual rather than, getting herded through table by table. And it's like, wait, I wasn't through looking at that, but it's so big. And I think that's probably Blade in particular, a gift to the curse is there's too much to see. And there's the pressure to go look at the Skagels and go look at the this and the that. And you look up and it's like, dude, this is just a lot to take in. Versus I feel like the get-togethers and the smaller things, it's like we're here, we're going to catch a meal, maybe we catch a movie, or, like some of the stuff that Sean's been doing. We're going to get together in an art gallery at some random place and time. And I don't know, I feel like for me, it's easier to connect. And as you guys can see, once you put a quarter in the jukebox, it's like putting a whole five in there. I like to talk. I like to get into it. I like the podcast rather than the snippet or the soundbite. And I'd say even at shows, I probably enjoy the hang after the show more than the show itself. The upside to the shows, you get to see some cool stuff that if you were just at a small gathering of, 5, 10, 15 makers at most, and then they're collectors, you wouldn't get, you wouldn't get to experience that.
No, I'm with you. The people experience is the core, right? For me anymore.
Yeah. And, shows, I'm picking at a thread here with Sean. Shows to me at times can be right up there with going to the airport. It's too much noise, too many different, overhead speakers. It's just too much.
Sometimes, yeah.
Be a lot. What happened for me over time is it turns into, and I know for you too, Ties, is it turns into this show up in this chaotic space, find your people, and once you found your people, that's it.
Yeah.
I would say I haven't been to a lot of shows in the last couple of years, but the ones that I have been to, each time I end up leaving the show saying, I didn't see shit at this show because I found my people, and that's where I stayed, and I had a wonderful time, right?
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely glad that I went, and I did not see every table, even in a little teeny tiny show.
Oh, yeah.
So
you end up having an impromptu get together at the show.
100%. Tyler, is there more that you wanted to hit on? You sent us a really nice list of stuff to talk about, which has been great because there's a lot of common ground here, right? Yeah. And I think, when Jade Marsh was on, I love that the comment he made about like-minded people find like-minded people, and that's certainly this group of 5 guys. But what is there anything else in here that you really want to hit on?
I think I've probably hit on most of it. I haven't let you guys talk. It's all been about me and mine, but I guess that's why I'm here. I guess the only other thing I would say is not that, I don't enjoy talking about it, because I do, but I usually get approached about some Kendrick lore or this model or that, or do you have a picture of this next to that? And it always starts with, hey, I hate to bother you. Don't hate to bother me. I mean, it's part of the reason why I've put all this collection together and taken pictures and, put this information together. Sean doesn't make that many knives, believe it or not. I think most people who get into them know that. And if you want to know what a spiraling demise looks like next to a smoke banshee, I may not be able to do it immediately, but if you have those questions, don't hate to bother me, because I have notifications turned off, so I'll get to it when I get to it.
It's all
elaborate. And I
elaborate.
appreciate that, dude. It saves me a lot of fucking time. And there's questions you can answer that, honestly, if I wanted to answer them, god damn, dude.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah. I would have to break out old fucking external hard drives and start going through shit.
Wow, that was as the ship was sinking on the USN. I went through and took a lot of screenshots and pasted them, because I'm like, ooh, that might come in handy.
Absolutely.
Kind of a funny story. I designed a knife, and it was like on my bulletin board, and I was like, I need to make that. I made it like a year ago and sold it to a guy. I saw it when he posted his collection. I was like, I'm losing my freaking mind, man.
Yeah.
I hear kind of crazy, right?
Still another one from Sean. Time makes fools of us all.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, I think the cataloging thing, that's some engineer stuff, man. I'll give you.
It is.
You and I have a lot of that in common, right? There's like notes and documents and spreadsheets and who knows what, full of stuff. Every time I dig up something, like for a hobby I used to be in, like, oh, dirt bike stuff. Oh yeah, well, there's somewhere I got a thing full of dirt bike stuff, and I'll find a folder somewhere on my computer, and it's like, oh snap, I got volumetric efficiency calculations from who knows what, and it's like, oh Lord, I've completely lost track of the fact that I was that deep into that thing.
And all I can say, my poor wife, she puts up with all of it.
She's a sport.
Bless her heart.
She really is.
Yeah. That was Amy's favorite thing to say. Can't you just dabble?
Nope.
Can't you just a little bit do something? I'm like,
nope.
No, that's not fun.
It's not interesting. It's learning about something new, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even listen to Tom. I got to mute him when he comes on, because like I end up with like a pellet rifle and 6 other things. I'm like, well, that episode cost me $4,000. Way to go, bud.
Yeah.
I'm a great enabler.
You really are. It's like, well, he's got one. I got to have one. I mean, I got to be one of the guys.
Hey, it's not the first time we've had a listener say that they have to mute Tom.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
I live my life by the rule, I won't be outdone by Tom.
Right. Yeah. Hey, also, I don't buy that whole Sean doesn't make that many knives. He's got a factory somewhere in some foreign land, and he's just, this is all an elaborate ruse.
At what point did I burn that motherfucker down? 'Cause
I've spent a little time in the shop, and it's not uncommon for them to end up in the creek. So there's probably more made than we see.
I'm sure of that. I have seen at least a slice of Pete Anderson's collection, and we know a little bit about yours. So between the two of you guys, we know it's not too small.
I've thought if Pete and I could, hang out one time, I feel like, it would be one of those, the earth tilted a little bit that day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That.
I might even volunteer to cover the cost of the venue to make that happen. Loading docks and all.
There you go. I like it. Call the U-Haul.
Exactly. Get the trucking company in there. Let's go.
Nice working. Shout out to Pete in there.
Yeah. Yep.
That's that old school real shit.
Pete Anderson. I would, Tyler's got some very nice Sean Kendrick folders and some really sweet fixed blades too, but I think Pete sits high on the fixed blade mountaintop.
How I know he sits on the mountaintop is he sent me what he believes to be, and about 2-page letter with it, the original Partisan fixed blade. And you want to talk about a flex?
Yeah.
Here, kid, have this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm tripping over them. I'm silly with them. So you just have this Partisan prototype, which I love that model. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
You're cute, kid. Here.
Here's a bauble. Go away.
Right. Did he say, hey, this would be a nice addition to your air quotes collection?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Your little collection.
Your little collection would benefit from something like this.
Oh yeah. I've seen was it Uncle Buck? Just a trunk full of knives on the overload springs, just shooting sparks.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Ty, thanks for taking the time to chat with us, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh, no, dude. Thank you. Enjoyed the hell out of that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can get a cogent thesis out of that with some strategic editing, but I appreciate you guys letting me talk at you and interview you a little bit, and most importantly, just get a little more word out there about Sean's work and where I am in the collection. And like I say, we'll have to do some show and tell with links and whatnot in the group.
Right. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it.
Even the RER of freaking Kendrick shill.
Oh man,
too funny. We'll have to get Peter Bloom on. He can be the crying shill.
There you go.
All right. I think that pretty much covers what we're doing. We actually got some letters. We get those letters. We got a nice email from Sean, who is a listener, and he sent us a nice note about the What Are You Listening To show and said he really liked it. We've had some nice feedback in the Facebook group. I think a few different folks, right, have posted in there about that episode, and they really, really dug that. I don't know, do you guys have anything new that we haven't talked about or that we haven't talked about yet or that's come along since that episode that you want to mention or what's been in your ear holes lately?
Oh, you mean books-wise?
Sure. Books, music, I don't care.
Shit, man. It's a long list.
And I've been on a graphic novel kick.
Yeah. I've never done the graphic novel thing. I need to try that.
And I just finished the Meta Baron's first cycle by Jodorowsky, and that was good. I mean, you start out and you're like, wow, dude, you really like Dune, but by the end of it, you're like, God damn, you really took that ball and ran with it.
Yeah.
So, nice. And the art's by a dude named Juan Jimenez, and it is fucking phenomenal.
I think you've sent me some pictures of his work before. His name sounds very familiar.
I mean, like, Shay got a bunch of, he's on a comic kick. That's why I've got them sitting in front of me. So I've been reading them. And, let's see.
I've listened to the Joe Abercrombie books, but Sean was talking about them. And for some reason, I think I maybe listened on someone else's account, but I didn't have the books. So I bought The Blade itself and the First Law trilogy to listen to again.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
They're fantastic.
Oh, god damn, dude. And they stand up to multiple readings/listenings.
Yeah.
That dude knows how to write. And you know what the best part is? He knows how to finish a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't leave you hanging.
No, dude. Every book I've read by him, at the end of the book, I didn't feel gypped.
Yeah.
Stephen
feel
King.
good.
Stephen King.
Well, maybe not good, but
It's about the journey, not the destination with King.
Yeah, that's what people who can't finish a fucking book say.
They told me at school it's got a beginning, a middle, and an end.
we're looking at you, Patrick Rothkus. Jackass.
Oh, boy. See, it started out as book talk and it turned into hate session fast.
There's a few that have stood out recently. If you want to know, check out How High We Go in the Dark. Sequoia Nagamatsu. It's a debut book, and man, it was fantastic. It's kind of this weird cloud atlasy type of. It's back and forth through time, through death, and it kind of one of those that punches you right in the soul. I really dug this shit out of that. Hit another Jeff Vandermeer, Born. He did the Annihilation, all those, the Southern Reach trilogy. And this one, the Born was pretty good, but it was actually pretty tame for him. It wasn't as fucking crazy. But a real funky one is There Is No Anti-Memetics Division.
What is it?
Huh.
There is no anti-memetics division. It is the idea of infecting people and an agency that tries to track down ideas that it's such a fucking weird, crazy loop of trying to track something down that infects you by thinking about it. You know what I mean? It was crazy. Yeah.
Sounds interesting.
It really was. And it wasn't like one of those where you're like, oh, it's too dense, it's too whatever. It flows well. The writing is done well. But I dug it. You know, you like Severance TV show, shit like that. You dig it.
Right on. That's right up my alley.
Originally a popular web series on the SCP Wiki.
Yeah. It's kind of weird. There's these books and stuff coming from certain podcasts and different, even like creepypasta stuff have become full books now. It's kind of crazy.
Now, okay, for our listeners who haven't gone down the SCP rabbit hole, fairly entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Explain SCP.
Dude, I can't remember what it actually
for?
stands for, but it's basically a catalog of monsters and phenomenon put into a real world context.
And there's been podcasts on it and stuff like that. The problem is, as far as sound design, you get a lot of redacted noises and stuff, and that can get a bit annoying.
There's actually some good YouTube content on it also.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
SCP, Secure, Contain, Protect.
Ah, yes.
So this almost has like a my first analogy that popped in my head was Ghostbusters.
Where they're going to say
gathering the ghosts. What's that?
I thought you were going to say Men in Black.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Kind of, but not.
Yeah.
Interesting. SCP. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. There's your book minute. We might do that on occasion because we had a number of folks talk to us about that. So, like I said, we heard about that in our Facebook group. So if you're not in our Facebook group, go check it out. This is really going to piss Sean off. I'm going to send him off into the night angry. I got a notification this morning that says Facebook can no longer recommend your page to others.
Oh, I saw that too.
I logged in under the Mark of the Maker account and tried to fix that.
Yeah? What is it?
We fucking can't.
No, they won't even tell you what it is.
Yeah, they won't tell us what it is that we're doing that violates policy or what policy it is we violated.
And yeah, it sounds like
Just that we violated something policy related and they can't recommend us anymore.
right.
We didn't need their shitty ass recommendations anyways. That's what I say.
And dude, you look on it, we've got the little green dot for account in good standing.
Yeah. So, join us in our Facebook group because Facebook's not going to recommend us to you, but you can find us if you just go on Facebook, search for Mark of the Maker. There's a Mark of the Maker page that really just gets fed our episodes when we release them, and our Facebook group, which when I remember to post it, also tells you when episodes get released. But there's lots of nice talk in there about things that we talked about in the show. Some listener feedback. A lot of times we'll ask folks, hey, what did you think about this? And they'll come in there and chit chat with us, along with sharing pictures and other interesting things. Some cool stuff pops up in there. So,
Yeah.
come join us in the Facebook group. Come join us on Patreon, patreon.com. That's a great way to support the show. Maybe get some free shit out of the deal. Who doesn't like that?
And engage. I love seeing people bring up stuff in the Facebook group, to just talk about. This is, we know you guys like books. Here's a cool book I read, or just a cool knife I saw. You know what we like. Post it up.
Right. All right. Well, I think that is it. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we will talk to y'all next time. Thanks again, Ty.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you very much, man.
Thanks, bud. And thanks, folks.
To learn more about our makers, you can find Tom Crine in his Facebook group Crine Knives or on Instagram @Crine Knives. For Michael Birch, check birchtreeblades.com, Facebook group Birch Tree Blade Works, or Michael's Instagram @BirchtreeBlades. For my own projects, I'm on the web at raygundivision.com or check my personal Instagram @msteiner. For those interested in photos, references from the show, or discussion about the show itself, you can always find us on the web at markofthemaker.com, in a Facebook group called Mark of the Maker, or on our Instagram @markofthemaker. Last but not least, credit for the ultra cool and haunting background music we use for the show. This is a piece called Noir Guitar by Stevie's Amp Shack, found at the Free Music Archive and licensed under Creative Commons CC BY 4.0. And as always, thanks for listening.